Good Sunday morning, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of All In with Nate. I am a week delayed on this show, so excuse me for my absence. I'm so sorry. I'm so delayed on this show. But I definitely wanted to cover everything Falcon based that we can at this point. Of course, last week the Falcons season ended with a 44-38 loss to the Panthers to finish the season 8-9, which, I mean, to be brutally honest, is a disappointment. You knew going in that your chances were low after the Commanders loss because you lost that game in overtime on the road at Washington, and then you needed basically the Saints' help, which I knew the Saints weren't going to help us. I knew that the season was done when we did not win our game at Washington. But you put yourself in that predicament coming into that game, which is a major knock on Raheem Morris and that staff, because once Kirk Cousins fell off a cliff, we should have made the move sooner. You drafted the guy number 8, and I mean, in the 3 weeks that he played, the guy played pretty well. Of course, he's going to have his rookie up and downs, and we'll talk about his stats from that last game in particular, which was his best game as a Falcon. But you see that you have a future with him. That was a re-energized feeling for the Falcon organization because you started him in the Giants game. And sadly, the young man led 2 game-time drives only for his defense to let him down in overtime. Again, no knock against the Carolina Panthers, but giving up 44 to a team that had got ran off the field a week before, no Chuba Hubbard, was pitiful. It just speaks to the fact that that defense had regressed so much under Jimmy Lake, and that there was no talent there. We couldn't get off the field in that game. It was pathetic. And the crazy thing about it, the Falcons actually won the time of possession in that game as well. But when you drop games that you're supposed to win, that is what happens. But again, you put yourself in that predicament even going into that game. But to lose in overtime back-to-back weeks is absolutely ridiculous. But again, you put yourself in this predicament. And now the Falcons are 8-9. And guess what? Let's be honest. When I did my preseason stream in August, I said that the Falcons that their basement had to be 9-8. 10-7 and win the division was my hope, but 9-8, you had to finish 9-8. And coming into this game, that was what I was at least hoping that they accomplished. They didn't do neither. So it's at the point now where it's like, what do? You're 8-9. Yes, you improved 1 win more than the last 3 seasons. However, that's not good enough. Not when you started 6-3 in the NFC South. You had a 2-game lead in the division and looked like basically you just simply needed to win 3 to 4 games. I said it after the Dallas game. If you would have handled 3 or 4 games, you're looking at the division title. You can even do that. And we can start back the Saints game. You absolutely blew the Saints game in New Orleans. You had those missed field goals from Young Oku, which, of course, he ended up getting hurt. He had a hip injury. You lost that game. We never showed up at the Denver game. The Denver game was over before it started. We weren't even in that Denver game. The Chargers game was another winnable ball game where Kirk Cousins had that god-awful interception stretch. That's when he was really struggling during that stretch, So you basically threw several games away right there. The Minnesota game, you hung in there, and then you just fell apart on defense. And then, of course, the last 2 games. So you blew this season straight up. And to be brutally honest, Raheem Morris better be glad this is year number 1, because a lot of folks have been calling for his head, has already been calling for his head, but you can't really fire a guy to year 1. However, they did make some moves that I will discuss. Let me hit these comments real quick. My boy, Buddy, checking what's up, buddy? What's going on, bro? Ryan, what's up, my boy? What's going on, man? Yes, we do need to fire. What's going on, my boy AJ? Y'all know he's on the shows with me several times throughout. We'll be probably doing one this week too. But we do need to fire Terry Fontenot. I feel like they try. My problem, Arthur Blank, has always been you let guys linger along that should have been gone way sooner. Because for one, with the Falcons situation, you don't have Terry Fontenot don't have a legitimately deep class that you can go back and say he drafted 3 or 4 pieces that are a part of the Falcons in 3-4 years from now. One thing that kept Thomas Dimitroff as long as he was here was the simple fact that Thomas put together the 08 class, the 16 class. You traded for Julio. You had solid pieces throughout your time. Currently, you still got Chris Lindstrom on the team from that was drafted by him. Grady, who's at the end of his tenure, been here 10 years. So you see what I'm saying? You got guys that was drafted in the Dimitroff era that was able to produce for the Falcons on top of having decent. He missed on the free agency as well, but he also had some good signings that were key for this team, like a Michael Turner, like a Tony Gonzalez. You know what I'm saying? You went and made moves to put your team in a position to win when they did under the Matt Ryan era. Terry has yet to do that. He's hit on a few picks. Drake was a hit. Bijan was an absolute hit. We needed him this season. He was our offense. Michael Penix is turning out to be a hit, basically. So, it's those guys are hits. But when you go to your second round, you got to think about your Richie Grant is horrible. Evan Katie's never been a really productive guy. You drafted Ruka Horo from Clemson, and he barely hit the field. You trade up for him, by the way. You picked up a Desmond Ridder who no longer on the team. When you start looking at the depth of the draft picks, the depth of the team, you don't see a lot of the draft picks that's really been productive on this team. Tyler Algier was a 5th-round pick in 2022. He gave us 1,000 yards. He might have been one of the top picks that's not in the first round, but outside of that, you don't really have a consistent class. And one thing about it, the best teams in the league put together consistent teams. They put together consistent draft classes and guys that can produce long term. We don't have that right now. And you got out the Matt Ryan situation. You went and put yourself back in cap issues with the Kirk Cousins situation. So it's like he's not learning from his mistakes. And honestly speaking, you might have to stick with Kirk Cousins in 2025. Here, you just have to be the most expensive backup ever. Because who's taking that contract? That contract's ridiculous. You can get off that contract in 2026. You just can't get off of it next year. So, I don't know. We'll see. And who should be our next defensive? It really depends on what the scheme is going to be. Me personally, I wouldn't be opposed to going back to get Ryan Nielsen, who was a good defensive coordinator last year for us. Jeff Ulbrich, who was here with Dan Quinn, he was with the Jets, but of course they fired their coach. I would love to bring him back. Not opposed to Gerard Mayo. I don't want Steve Wilkes. I don't want Steve Wilkes. I want to stay far away from Steve Wilkes. But to me, you got to get you a experienced defensive coordinator. Jimmy Lake had no experience as a defensive coordinator, and it showed. The guy was out of position most of the season. And to be brutally honest, once again, the Falcons changed 3-4 to 4-3 to 3-4 to 4-2-5. You cannot keep changing schemes. You don't have the personnel to do that. And let me jump down. My boy Jay, what's going on, Jay? You said exactly what I'm about to get into. Y'all had the first to run a 4-3 that even runs that. Exactly. That's my issue with the Falcons. They changed schemes multiple times over the last 4 years. The 4-3 was really beneficial to us last season. But then you go back to a 3-4, and that sucked. So you don't have the personnel to run the Raheem Morris scheme. And that's the issue that I have with the Falcons. So you got to figure out a way to get this guy. You got to get some pieces in here that fit that scheme, but also you got to get rid of another thing. Like, for example, if you're going to run a 3-4 defense, there is no reason you should ever see Grady Jarrett, Eddie Goldman, and David Onyemata line up to rush the passer. Those three at times were our 3 down linemen with Judon on the outside, who also was getting caught in coverage. Lorenzo Carter, who was on the outside, getting caught in coverage. What is the scheme that you're running? Your linebackers weren't that good as far as a 3. If you're going to run a 3-4, to me, you need to have speed at that linebacker position. Troy Anderson, he doesn't fit. he can't stay on the field. He's becoming a bust. He had that one good week against the Saints, but other than that man's a bust to me. Right? Basically, he's a bust to me. Caden Ellis is more of a pass rusher than a linebacker. I don't like his stat looks great. He had over 100-something tackles and 5 sacks on the season. However, think about the fact that at times he was our better pass rusher. And if he's not pass rushing, he's having to make the tackle 10 yards after the play's over. Nate Lamon fit the 4-3 to perfection. He doesn't fit the 3-4. He don't have the speed to cover the tight ends in this conference. It's in the league, actually. He don't have he can't keep up with your slot receivers, and a lot of times we were getting caught up like that. A lot of times the third down conversions, team was just hitting us over the middle. And then we were trying to blitz and couldn't get no pressure. So you got to figure out a new scheme for this team going forward. It got to happen. But hitting some of these comments, what's up, nephew? Well, boy, Quavo checking in. What's going on? I appreciate that, bro. Jay, what's up, man? He said, and Bryce Young, oh my God, that was so pathetic. When I tell you, they were so out of position, and I wish I would have got my all 22 clips together and put them up here, because I actually look at all 22 all the time when the games are over. A lot of the positioning that we were in, it was awful in that game. It was crazy. My boy Chris checking in. What's up, Chris? Oh my God. Oh yeah, it was boy Q, another one of my co-hosts checking in. Hey man, I would not be opposed to Robert Saleh either, because that jet scheme was really good. They just didn't have a good offense. And I agree, no Steve Wilkes. Tell what's going on, bro? He said, please let Raheem call the defense. He started to call the defense down the stretch, and it was much better. But I mean, got so out of position, so it's like you got to do something about that. Sam said, my boy Grady been out of position for 2 to 3 years, and they wonder why his production down. And that's another thing. Grady's not what Grady used to be, but Grady's not a pass rusher. He is a clog the middle defensive tackle, and so is David Onyemata. And it has cost us a lot this season because we're still trying to find a pass rush. And just think at your mobile quarterbacks you got in the pocket, especially in this division. You got Baker Mayfield, who he got the pocket, get a first down. Bryce Young has been better. He's gonna be a problem for Carolina if Carolina continue to build around him. So when you get against these elite quarterbacks in the league, next season we're gonna play Josh Allen. We're gonna play guys like that can get out the pocket. You're not gonna be able to send a Grady and a David as a pass rusher and think a guy like that's not gonna get out the pocket and take off on us. It's gonna happen every time. So things got to change. Jaden Daniels destroyed the Falcons on the ground for the similar reasons. So, again, a lot has to change for this team going forward if this team is going to produce in 2025. But overall, there are signs of, when I look at the state of the team is there's a bright future. I will be brutally honest. There is a bright future with this team. But I'm going to keep it a buck. We're going to keep it a buck as a diehard Falcon fan, season ticket holder, long-time supporter of this team. You got to figure something out in 2025. You have not had a winning season in 8 years. In 8 seasons, the Falcons have not had a winning season. The front office, the stat, Blake and all them was putting it out like this is a win now team. We're not going to be picking high. The defense is going to be a problem. This is going to be another issue. But then you have this hot start and you falcon it away. You don't even win the division and you're at home in the postseason. That is a slap in the face to this fan base, who, by the way, you sold out season tickets this year at the Benz. You can't say the fans didn't come support you. Yes, we had a couple of good opponents in town. Kansas City came to town. Pittsburgh came to town. Dallas came to town. But again, there were some really good Falcon crowds all season long. It was never a straight up the road crowd taking over the stadium like that. Pittsburgh did it week 1. That's Pittsburgh, though. That's just it is what it is with Pittsburgh. You know what time it is. But as far as the rest of the games, the Chiefs game wasn't even that bad. It was a good crowd because, of course, Mahomes and company in town. They're on the verge of 3 people. So The fans showed up for the team. But when you have that type of effort that happens to end the season, that's a problem. And you're now getting into a situation where you're going into another season where you're saying, hey, we're close. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's a problem when you're having some of the issues that you had previously. But the talent is better on the team. That's where you have to look at Raheem Morris. He got to really step up this offseason. He got to really tighten up this offseason. Because I promise you, a better head coach, this team is in the postseason. The Kirk Cousins situation, if you don't fall apart like it did that 5 weeks in the season, this is a playoff team. You did enough the statistics are crazy. And I'm going to bring it up too. Statistically, guys actually had a really good year. You got what you wanted. What I said coming into this season, you were going to learn a lot about your draft picks. Drake London is easily going to be one of the top 10 receivers in fantasy drafts next season. That man balled this year. Drake had, and I'm going to look at the stats when I can in a moment on here, but Drake had like 1,300 yards receiving, had 100 receptions. Bijan was one of your top rushers in the league. He was a snub of the Pro Bowl. Boy balled this year. You got production. Darnell Mooney, who's your free agent signing, is a very solid wide receiver too. Ray McLeod gave us a career year. Like, you got guys who produce. Kyle Pitts, I don't know what's going to happen to Kyle Pitts, to be honest with you, because y'all know how I feel about Kyle Pitts. I don't care for Kyle Pitts at this point, but do Kyle Pitts get another season with Michael Penix now as the quarterback? Because you would have thought he would have ate with Kirk Cousins. He had a little stretch here and there, but then he fell off. But you wonder what will Atlanta do at that point, as far as, because he did not get on the field a lot towards the end of 2024. So I don't know. I don't know what this stands for Kyle Pitts is at this point. But boy, Chris said if Pitts doesn't have a good year next year, should the Falcons consider move? I'm not opposed to him being moved this offseason, to be honest with you, because especially down the stretch, he barely got involved in the offense. Like, he caught that game-time touchdown at Washington. He had a couple of plays here and there, but he doesn't get involved in the scheme. A portion of it can be Zach Robinson. I think Zach Robinson is really not he's not what they put him out to be as far as he's not the best offensive coordinator, but statistically, his production shows different. The Falcons actually had a top 15 offense. So you can't really just knock the man for his scheme. I think he's still young. I think he still got some things he got to learn about himself. However, I do think that Kyle Pitts at times don't produce at the level that your standard tight end can produce. I mean, Jonnu Smith was on our team last year. He was productive for the Dolphins. I don't feel at times that Kyle Pitts produces for us like he should. And with the way that this receiving core was this year, there's no way he shouldn't have had at least 800 to 900 yards by himself. But I don't feel like he has a dog in him at this point. So I don't know. I think they may give him the grace of coming back another season, but I just don't see him producing like that for us. So I would move him this offseason. That's just me, though. I would see what we can get for him, because the Falcons don't have a lot of draft picks anyways, because we traded third for Judon. We had to give up the fifth for Tapper for Kirk Cousins. So we really do need some draft picks, to be honest with you. Let's see. Byron, he said the Pro Bowl's been dead for years because of the players, man. That is true. It's not this. It don't have the same feel to it no more, so that is true. Let's see what my boy Jay said. For years, mobile quarterbacks destroyed the Falcons. That's proven, but y'all got to get aggressive on the defensive end. Yes, and that's the problem that I had this offseason with the Falcons. When you looked at the way that the Falcons addressed this offseason, they did not really make you could have left that Kirk Cousins situation alone if you're going to draft Michael Penix Jr. And when they got Danielle Hunter, he gave the Texans 12 sacks. Yeah, he probably had Will Anderson on the opposite side, but Danielle Hunter is better than any pass rush on the Falcons right now. But you didn't put money into that spot. You didn't go to the draft. I'm not knocking the Penix pick. I know folks are gonna still say we could have went and got Jared Verse. I wanted Jared Verse, but I'm not opposed to what we did, especially after what happened with Kirk Cousins. But what I have a major problem is Rook barely hit the field. Doyle's barely hit the field. Braylon Trice went down for the season. But you didn't do anything as far as addressing your secondary. To me, you got AJ Terrell, but there's no solid number 2 corner. You could have took that second rounder and went and got Kamari Lassiter, who's balling in Houston, by the way. And I'm not just saying it because he's a Bulldog, but you needed another corner because D. Offer got to go. Clark Phillips is not it. Mike Hughes is not it. Antonio Hamilton, hometown boy, not it. Again, you got to use a solid number 2 corner on the opposite side of AJ Terrell. Even if AJ is not an elite corner, he's good enough to hold one side of the field down. You need another corner that can take that pressure off of him. Same thing for the secondary. Of course, Jesse Bates is Jesse Bates. Justin Simmons, I'm going to be honest with y'all. If it's not expensive, I would bring him back one more year in the new scheme just to see if it was the scheme or was it him at this point. But, I mean, Richie Grant got to go. You don't need to pay Richie Grant at all that season. You got to get to me, you got to overhaul the linebacking core. You got to overhaul the defensive line. That got to be you got to do that this off season. You can get away. You can come back and hit certain things you may need as far as on offense, but that defense got to get addressed and bad. Let me get to the comments. Ted said he ain't got no dog in the trade him for a third. Chris said, Tevin saying trade him for a third wants a first. Man, it's diabolical. You know how that goes. Tell gonna tell. But yeah, so that's just my take on that. I'm gonna post the stats from that Panthers game real quick. Let me go to it. Okay, let's see. All right, got to bring up the box score. Let me get the box score up full for y'all. I'm gonna come off the screen totally. But as you see the stat line, Falcons finished 8-9, 4-5 at home. Here's the stats from the game. Bryce Young, let me tell y'all, man, I don't know what happened. I don't know who got him coached up, who talked to him or whatever, but Bryce Young has been awesome since he got benched. They just don't have talent there. Now, also look at another glaring stat as far as this when I read this off. 25 of 34, 251, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He didn't get sacked one time. No pressure. Jalen Coker, he had the reverse. They called a reverse that they got a completion on. So that's where that one throw for came from his end. Michael Penix Jr., when I tell y'all, the kid is very talented. I'm glad we picked him. He was the guy I wanted anyways in the draft last year. If you go back and watch my streams last year, you will definitely see that I had Michael Penix Jr. in all my mock drafts. Because, again, I knew we weren't going to be in range to get Jaden. I knew we weren't going to get Caleb. So this was the guy I really wanted right here at the spot we were at. I'm glad we picked him up. Michael Penix, 21 of 38, 312, 2 touchdowns. The pick that he has is not even technically on him. Ray McLeod tipped the ball in there for a pick. 2 of his 3 picks this year has been off of bad of the receivers. Kyle Pitts screwed up the first one in the Giants game. And then Ray McLeod had that goof in the Panther game that actually turned the momentum of that game as well. So that's another problem that we ran into. As far as rushing, Miles Sanders, let me throw this comment up here. My boy KD checking in said Penix picks on. It doesn't. His picks don't be on him. And that's the crazy thing about it. The picks that he's thrown, it's like, come on, man. This is a pick. Like, come on, man. It's ridiculous, bro. But that's the situation we've been in this season. His picks don't be on him. Miles Sanders, 17 of 66. He had a rushing touchdown. Raheem Blackshear, 4 for 47, no touchdowns. Bryce Young, 5 for 27. Bryce Young had 2 rushing touchdowns, and both of them were like total breakdowns on the defense. It was awful. I was so hot with these guys. It was awful, man. Yeah, Kyle Pitts. Yeah, Kyle Pitts said that. That was definitely on the first pick of the season that man threw. It was awful. It was so awful. And as you look on the opposite side, Bijan Robinson, 28 for 170 yards rushing. He averaged 6 yards a pop. That man is everything that he deserved to be as the number 8 pick. I still, at the time, I'm like, okay, we're going best player available. But personally, I wanted Christian Gonzalez. However, the guy's a very talented running back. And I think he's going to be a problem at this point. He said, I hate that I follow this team more than my own, but it's fun. Hey, I feel you, man. I feel you. A lot of my boys are Cowboy fans. They feel you on that, too. Let's see. As you see, Tyler Algier, 9-52. That's the kind of day that you want from your second string running back. And I hope that they really continue to feed these guys next season. And Michael Penix, hey, man, let me tell you, that rushing touchdown, he tried to dial his Vic bag a little bit. Hey, the fans going crazy in the stadium, too. They love that. They love to see a mobile quarterback get out of that pocket and make a play. But that was a great play on third down, too. He extended that play. He had a great day at the office. I have to continue to say that. Now, going to the rest of the statistics, Carolina didn't have like a dominant person that was dominating as far as receiving. Jalen Coker, 7-62. Miles Sanders, 3 for 50 and a touchdown. That touchdown he got Judon in coverage, and it was a dime from Bryce Young. Adam Thielen, 5 for 44. Jatavian Sanders, 3 of 35. Tommy Tremble caught a wide open touchdown on 4th and 1. I know y'all probably remember the play. Xavier Legette, 3 for 30. Felipe freaking Franks. I didn't even realize he was on the Panthers or on a team. Y'all probably remember that name. He was our third string quarterback under Matt Ryan. And I think he played tight end with Marcus Mariota, but the dude just been everywhere. Dude, he just that gadget. He ain't all that, but he hang around the league. I don't know how. But Atlanta receiving, Drake freaking London. By the way, know a lot of folks were not big on the Drake London pick at the time. I've said it for the last 2 years. Drake just needed somebody to give him the ball. It shows. 10 for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. The dude has been really good for us all season long. Ray McLeod, 4 of 66. We didn't have Darnell Mooney this game, unfortunately. He was hurt. Cordero Hodge caught a 24-yard pass. That was a dot, too, by the way, that Penix threw to him. Tyler Algier, 2 of 17. Kyle Pitts had 3 targets, had 2 catches. Bijan only had 2 receptions in this game. So, again, there was no – by the way, the Falcons only had that 1 pick that was really even on Penix. Miles Sanders lost a fumble, but he recovered it, I think. Atlanta had no fumbles. Looking at the defensive stats, Damani Richardson led the team in tackles for the Panthers, 9 for Chandler Wooten. Jordan Fuller had 8 tackles. I think they only had 1 sack. That was David Klein that got that 1 sack that led to that Riley Patterson missed field goal, who, by the way, the Falcons, if you come back with Young Hoku, fine, but Riley Patterson got to get as far away from an Atlanta Falcon uniform as he can. That's another problem that they got to get off of. But the statistics weren't really a lot. Jadeveon Clowney had 3 quarterback hits, too. Clowney was all over the field. Michael Jackson had 4 tackles. Not really a lot producing on that side. Let's look at the Falcons side. Caden Ellis had 10 tackles. Nate Lamb had 8 tackles. D. Alford, he gets his 7 tackles after he give up a lot of plays. So you know how that goes with D. Alford. But again, as you see, there wasn't really a lot of production on the Falcons side. They missed a lot of sacks. Michael Jackson had that interception that, like I said, it helped the momentum of that game. As you see, Avery Williams had 3 kick returns. He didn't really do nothing. Natron Brooks had a kick return. Avery Williams had a punt return for 9 yards. Riley Patterson missed the field goal. Eddie Pinheiro only had to kick 1 field goal. He kicked 5 extra points. And the Falcons, as crazy as this sounds, did not punt the ball once and lost. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We didn't punt the ball. Let that sink in. We did not punt the ball last Sunday and we lost. That's awful. That's awful. So either we were scoring, we had that goof at the end where Raheem said, screw it, we're going to overtime. We had a missed field goal, and we had that Ray tip up for a pick. That was the three ways that the drives ended for the Falcons on last Sunday. Pathetic. That's pathetic. Let me go to the team stats while I'm over here. Let me go to team stats so I can show you. Falcons led the game in first downs. We were 9 of 14 on third down. They were 7 of 12. We were 2 of 3 on fourth down. They were 1 for 1. Falcons ran more plays, had 500 yards of offense. One less drive than Carolina. 310 to their 270. 227 yards rushing to their 155. The Falcons had 7 penalties. The Panthers had 2. Falcons were 4 or 5 in the red zone. They went 5 or 6. The Falcons actually lost time possession at the end because they didn't get the ball in overtime. They were dominating time possession before that. They had that one goof. Again, when you look at the statistics, you're like, how in the world did the Falcons lose that game? But that's the Falcons for you. That is the Atlanta Falcons for you. It's pathetic. But that's the statistics for that game. I want to bring up a couple of things as far as the offseason. For one, I want to put this down on the screen. The Falcons will be picking number 15 in the draft after the rated season has ended. So Falcons are going to be in range for like a pass rusher. I did a mock, but like for me, you got certain guys like Jalen Walker, James Pierce, Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. You got guys like that. The Falcons got to really hit that defense in the draft. Straight up. They got to hit the defense in the draft. But I wanted to bring up some of the statistics for the regular season just to show that real quick. Just kind of show y'all how the season ended statistically for the Falcons, beyond the records, of course. So I'm going to go back full screen. So here we go. Let me get this off the screen. So Falcons finished 8-9. They were the number 13 team in the league as far as points scored. They were the 23rd in points allowed. They were 423 on the season. That was pathetic. Let me go to the stats of the season. So the Falcons, like I said, they were number 13 in as far as the yardage per se. But the Falcons were number 6 as far. The Falcons had the 6th most offensive yards in the league. They had 24 turnovers. 24. Think about how many drives ended off of those interceptions that we had or a turnover. That's not a bad spot. That's a horrible spot to be in, especially when you look at the statistics of the season for the Falcons. The Falcons went only 2 games and didn't turn the ball over. That was week 2 against the Eagles and week 8 against the Buccaneers. In every other week, the Falcons had at least 1 turnover. That is pathetic. That is pathetic. But looking at the rest of the stats, so the Falcons were number 8 in first downs. They were 14 in attempts, number 5 in passing, number 20 in touchdown passes. They threw the 4th most interceptions in the league at 19. You're going to lose games like that. You're going to lose games like that. Rushing total, the Falcons finished with an overall top 10 rushing unit. Number 7, that was number 8 in attempts, number 10 in rushing, number 8 in rushing touchdowns, number 12 in yards per attempt. They ended up finishing with a top 10 rushing unit, which is really good. So that just speaks to the production from Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier Company. Falcons didn't have good starting field position most of the season. Their time possession, they were number 6. They were number 2 in plays. They were number 4 in yards, 14 in points. Again, it's the little things that you don't do right. That's the difference between you being a playoff team and a team that went home. And that's exactly what's being seen right here. Defensively, boy. 23rd in points, 23rd in yards. They were middle of the pack in forcing turnovers. They were 23rd in fumbles forced, 25th in first downs, meaning that we were the 7th worst in giving up third downs this season. Who you telling? I feel the same way, brother. Good to see you checking in. 22nd in passing yards. They gave up the 2nd most touchdown passes this season, 34. I don't know who was worse, but that's bad. Only 12 interceptions on the season. Rushing. That was yards per attempt for passing. That's number 20. Rushing, they were middle of the pack, 16th in attempts, 15th as far as rushing. They were number 4 in giving up rushing touchdowns and 18th as far as the yards per attempt. Now, average yards starting at the 30, time of possession 26. They were actually the worst in the league at one point in time. So this actually improved at a certain point in the season. 24th plays, 27 in yards, and 28 in points. We couldn't get off the field on third down in most games. We couldn't bring down the quarterback in most games. Teams just marched the field on us. So we lost time possession in a lot of games this season. So that's a bad look in regards to the situation for the Falcons. You can't get off the field on third down, and that's been a big glaring issue. And then when I show you last year, I'm going to go to last year before I continue. I want to show you the same statistics, the same thing with Ryan Nielsen last year. They were 18 in points. But look at the statistics as far as everything else. They were 11 in yards. They were number 8 as far as yards allowed passing. They were still middle of the pack as far as touchdown passes, but they didn't give up a lot. They only gave up 24 last year. They didn't pick the ball off a lot last year, so they improved in that a lot this year. Rushing teams ran the ball for a lot more on them last year. They were 20th in yards per in yards. They were 8th in touchdowns allowed. They were 9th in rushing yards allowed per attempt. They were number 10 in the scrimmage. Again, they were okay as far as starting field position, but they were not on the field a lot. They were number 11 in time possession. They were number 11 in yards. They were number 7 in plays and number 7 in yards and 15 in points. A major drop-off. This is why Jimmy Lake got fired. As you see, it's a total change, total scheme difference, but it was worse as far as defensively. With a lot of the same players from last year. We only had added Judon and freaking Judon. We only added Judon and Simmons. The rest of the defense was here last year, but it was a total drop off. It shows the coaching in that stance. Pretty bad, I must say. But also team conversions. The Falcons gave up 45.3% on third down. That is the second worst in the league. The second worst. Pathetic. That'll get you fired also. That'll get you fired. That's awful. But that's just showing some defensive stats on the season. Let's go to the passing. As far as passing attempts, Kirk Cousins, of course, he was a starting quarterback for the first 14 weeks. 3,508 yards, 18 touchdowns, 16 picks. I think he led the league in picks. He did. So as you see, that's in the bowl. So he still led the league in picks. He didn't play the last 3 weeks. That's bad. That's really bad. But he had a couple of game-winning drives. You see, he had 3 game-winning drives, 3 fourth quarter comebacks. Michael Penix went 1 or 2 of his starts. His stats don't look crazy. He had 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He got sacked 4 times. The line was a bit better under Michael Penix also. It's just, again, he came in late. So that's really where it stands as far as the statistics for the Falcons passing. But let's look at the rushing yards. Bijan, 304 carries, 1,456 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns, 4.8 yards a carry. The dude produced all season long. He had 431 yards receiving, 1 touchdown, 61 catches. That dude balled all season long. He was one of the better running backs in the NFC. And truly, he should have been a Pro Bowler, but the NFC was stacked at running back this year. You had Saquon, of course. Saquon, Saquon may be the MVP. Well, no, he's not going to be the MVP. I think Lamar's going to win MVP. But he's in the race. He'll win an award. Aaron Jones productive for the Vikings. You had Josh Jacobs, who balled for the Packers. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they were a crazy tandem in Detroit. So there's been good running back play all throughout the NFC. Chuba Hubbard for the Panthers, he had almost 1,200 yards rushing before they deactivated for the rest of the season. So again, it was a stat year at running back in the NFC. Really good, actually a good year overall for running backs in the NFL. Tyler Algier, 137 carries for 644 and 3 rushing touchdowns. When Tyler goes on the field, he makes plays. So again, that just speaks to the volumes of having a really good 1-2 punch. And again, come back with these guys. I know people have been saying, let's get rid of one and keep the other. Don't get rid of one and keep the other. Let both of them cook. Let both of them cook straight up. That's exactly what you need to do. But that's the rushing statistics. Let's look at the passing. Receiving, Drake London, 100 catches for 1,271 and 9 touchdowns. This dude balled for the Falcons. He was worth the pick at the time in 2022, and he showed you why. Shot, he's not a Pro Bowler, but I mean, in the NFC, when you got CeeDee Lamb, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Terry McLaurin, you're in a stat. This has been a really good year as far as the skill position, per se. Even with quarterback play being down for a moment, that's been a good production. Darnell Mooney was 8 yards from having 1,000, but he was a very big piece for this Falcon offense this season. Ray McLeod, 686 and 1 touchdown. Kyle Pitts, 602 and 4 touchdowns. That's an okay stat line for an average tight end. Let me make this very, very clear. That's a good stat line for an average tight end. When you are a pick at number 4 and you're supposed to be producing as one of the top tier tight ends like a Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, you expect better production from that position, from that caliber player, especially when you look at his skill set. He got to improve as an overall player in year number 5, even if he's not a Falcon. That's just me keeping it a buck as far as him on all levels, not just as a Falcon. But getting down to the defensive stats, let's see. As you see, Jesse Bates had led team with 4 picks. AJ Terrell had 2. Simmons had 2. Caden had 1. Judon had 1. Troy had 1. Clark Phillips had 1. They were all the interceptions for the season for the Falcons. Not a lot in that department. Ebiketie led the team in sacks with 6. Matthew Judon had 5.5 sacks on the year. He didn't really get them until the end of the season anyways. Caden Ellis had 5 sacks. Yamada had 3. Grady had 2.5. As you see, it wasn't a lot of production still as far as the pass rush. Caden Ellis and Jesse Bates both had 100 tackles on the season. So that's really that's the production of the offensive statistics for the Falcons. So that's really what the stat lines look like for them. But hey, they got to get things straight this offseason. You got a future. You got a nice future ahead. So the Falcons got to get it together, plain and simple. But I wanted to show y'all, before we get into it, I want to show you the potential schedule for next season. So the Falcons will have 8 home games next year. The opponents are going to be the Panthers, Saints, and Bucks, of course. We got some very good home games next season. We had some good home games this year, but everybody that's on the schedule next season had a winning record. You got the Rams, who won the division. They'll play tomorrow night against the Vikings that's coming in here. You got Seattle, who they beat the brakes off us when they played us in October. They'll be back here this season. You got the Rams. I'm sorry, my bad. You got the Bills, who I can't wait to see Josh Allen in person. This is gonna be my first time seeing Josh Allen. The Dolphins, we don't know what the Dolphins are gonna look like, but Tua and company is not a bad team. I'm sure this Commanders game is gonna definitely be Sunday night football. It's gonna be a primetime game of some sort. I cannot see that game not being a primetime game. when the Falcons and Commanders rematch again this upcoming season. As far as the away opponents, of course you go to Carolina, New Orleans, Tampa. You go to Arizona. You go to San Francisco. I don't know what San Francisco team is going to be. That's going to be at this point next season. You'll go to New England. You'll go to New York. And that's now, I will say this. Depending on what time of the year those two games are, it's going to be very interesting for the Falcons. Because, again, I don't want those games being in December or January. I want those games to be as early as possible. The Minnesota Vikings go back to Minnesota next season, and then you go play the Colts and Anthony Richardson and company. So the Falcons got 9 road games, 8 home games. So that's their schedule. They had 9 home games this year. But again, we'll have time to get into that once it gets here. But I will bring up one last thing before I get off of this stream, and that's the upcoming free agents. We don't know what's going to happen really coming up for the Falcons in the next couple of weeks. But these are the guys that is currently free agents. And I'm going to run off the list to you real quick. Lorenzo Carter's a free agent. He's outside linebacker. I will be fine with him being gone. I don't want Lorenzo Carter back. Drew Dahlman is going to depend. Me personally, I prefer to get another center, but I think they'll probably keep the offensive line together because he was hurt at a point in time. Ross Dwelly, he'll be gone. Taquan Graham will likely be gone too. Richie Grant, I can't see the Falcons bringing him back. I can't. I cannot see it. I can't see it. Eddie Goldman, think he's gone. Antonio Hamilton, I think he's gone. Damon Harris, I think he's gone. Cordero Hodge, I don't have an issue with him being re-signed. I wouldn't be opposed to them bringing him back for another year because he is he's your special teams do-it-all guy. He's basically like, can I think of a boy name? I want to say it was Slater in New England. He's kind of like that guy that he don't produce a lot, but he come in and do what you need him to do. So I think they'll bring him back this offseason for cheap. Judon, I don't know. If the Falcons may move on from him, but then again, it could bring him back for cheap and move him to the straight up pass rushing side of things this offseason. We'll see. Mike Hughes, I think he's gone. Kevin King, I think he's gone. I really hope they will allow Rondale Moore to get one more season, just sign him for cheap, because I think he's supposed to be our deep threat. And we all said that the Falcons was truly missing that deep threat this season. And I think he's supposed to be that guy. So I hope they at least give him a shot. Storm Norton, they probably could bring him back for cheap. Brandon Parker will be gone. Riley Patterson will be gone. Justin Simmons is the one I ride the fence with. I wouldn't be mad if they don't bring him back. But if they do bring him back, I don't have an issue with it. I think they would try to see what they can get just for cheap production. He's even said on record that he loves being in Atlanta, so it wouldn't be a shocker if the Falcons bring him back for cheap. But we'll see what happens with that. But James Smith-Williams, I think he'll be gone. Kentavious Street, I think he's a 50-50. He's 50-50. I'm not gonna lie, it's 50-50. Because he'll make a play here and there. So they may keep him as a depth piece. Elijah Wilkinson, I think he's gone. Avery Williams, I think he's gone. Josh Wood, I think he's absolutely gone too. Let's go to restricted free agents. D. Alford is absolutely gone. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no point in bringing him back. Harrison Hand gone. Kyle Hinton gone. Nate Lamon, they may bring him back for cheap. He'll probably back for cheap. Leanne McCullum, he'll probably back. Ryan Newsell, that's a 50-50 also, because he wasn't bad while Drew Dahlman was out either. So if Drew Dahlman do command a lot of money, they may bring Ryan Newsell back. So we'll see. But that's your restricted free agency. Exclusive right free agents, I don't think neither of these guys will step on the field. So again, they asked a couple of guys at UC. Drew Dahlman said he didn't want to get into it. Richie Grant said he would love to be back as a Falcon. Justin Simmons said he would love to be back as a Falcon. Those are some of the guys they asked about would they want to come back as a Falcon? But let me hit these comments. Jim Lake had to go. He had to go, to be honest with you. He didn't really have – we need a better, more veteran experienced defensive coordinator, and he's just not it. The scheme doesn't fit. The coach it's a combination of the talent and the coaching as far as on that defense. So Jimmy Lake was going to be the scapegoat regardless. Even though I don't think he's a scapegoat, I think he did need to go because I don't think he coached that defense well at all. And Aaron Curry said, y'all ain't going to have no rotational players. I think they're going to bring a couple of these guys back for cheap, but we don't know what the scheme's going to be now because it was 3-4. So we don't know what the new defensive coordinator is going to consider. We got to really be careful with the money situation because of Kirk Cousins. We don't know what's going to happen with the free agency situation. Jake could be gone. Grady could be cut and brought back for cheap. We don't know. We don't really know. So we'll see what happens with that situation as far as what they do on defense. And Shane checking in, he said, Bryce Young, yes, sir. Bryce Young definitely is a really good quarterback now. I think he's going to be a problem going forward. And I said that early in the stream too, by the way, Aaron. I definitely said Gerard Mayo would be a guy I would consider because he just got fired from the Patriots. I would love to see what he can do for that defense here in Atlanta. But that's going to wrap this show. I will be back on here to talk about the NFL playoffs at some point and UGA. I have not had a chance to discuss Georgia like I wanted to. So this won't be the last that you will see of me. Of course, I may not talk as much Falcons until more happens, like close to free agency and whatnot. But I will be talking more NFL, more college, more other things. I'm not going to just keep it straight Falcons at this point. Just because I know everyone enjoyed watching the show. So I appreciate y'all that tuned in. But until next time, this has been an episode of All In with Nate. Enjoy the rest of your NFL Wildcard Sunday, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a great Sunday.